All right, guys, we're going to discuss Binance again. And if, let's pretend that all the allegations are true, it could actually spiral us down to 10K or less in Bitcoin. And we're going to explain how that actually happens. And it's not just Binance basically going down itself. That won't actually spiral us below 10K, but it's a cascade of events that's basically a death loop. Before I explain this, I want to actually say I don't think this is going to happen, and I don't think Binance actually collateralized that much BNB for loans. That's the first condition. If Binance did not collateralize a ton of BNB for loans when BNB was really high or at a fairly high price, this is all not valid. So I actually don't think this is valid. And also Binance has a lot of stable coins, so they have some protection against this. So how does this mega catastrophic event happen? Well, Binance, first of all, has to take out a loan for hundreds of millions or billions of dollars using BNB as collateral. Now, that's always risky because BNB is very volatile. And if BNB goes down, you may not actually have enough collateral to back up that loan. So you would actually have to get more money, or you would have to raise the price of BNB. Now, how does Binance raise the price of BNB or keep it from falling? Well, it has to prop it up by buying more BNB. We all do think that Binance actually does this, but not for this specific purpose. How does Binance get money besides their quarterly profits, which may not be enough? That Binance has a large stash of Bitcoin. So they would sell that Bitcoin for money to buy BNB, and that would prop BNB up. But there's a big problem with that. That problem is when you sell BNB, the entire market goes down. I mean, when you sell BTC, the entire market goes down because the entire market's based on Bitcoin, obviously. So even as they're propping BNB up with the money they're making from selling the BTC, the entire market's going down, and BNB would actually go down as well. So they're basically having the opposite effect on the market while propping their coin up. So it comes out about even generally. And this is another thing about people who are using your coin as collateral and have Bitcoin to back up your coin. It doesn't work. And it doesn't work solely because of this reason, because as you're selling BTC, the entire market's crashing. So you're basically canceling out what you're doing by propping your coin up by basically tanking the entire market. So as the price of Bitcoin goes down, BNB is going to go down as well, which makes them have to sell more BTC to try to prop up BNB. Obviously, that's not going to work because that's going to crash the market even more. What they're basically hoping for is like their sales of BTC won't actually crash the market hard enough for it to offset what they're doing with BNB. But as we've seen with other coins, that never actually works. So they're eventually just going to have to liquidate their entire stash of BTC. And that could bring down the market a couple thousand points, which would actually trigger other people to panic sell to bring down the markets even more, which would actually trigger the liquidation of longs, which would actually bring down the market even more. And of course, their BNB is going to be affected by all of this. And BNB is not going to be able to maintain its price. So because BNB is not going to maintain its price, Binance then at some point would have to throw in the towel and basically liquidate their BNB, which would not cover the collateral on their loans. And if they don't have enough money in the treasury, then Binance goes down. So you basically have Binance selling off tons and tons of BTC to bring us down first. And then, basically having to liquidate their BNB, and the company basically goes down. And that all added up would be a much bigger event than even FTX or Terra Luna. And that could actually bring us below $10,000. I don't think that's very likely because remember I said Binance also has a large stash of stable coins. They would sell those first. They would actually sell those first because stable coins don't go down as you sell them, and they would use those coins to actually back up their BNB. So what has to happen is that first of all, they have to take out a loan, a really big loan, and the collateral has to go below the actual price that it would liquidate. Then they would have to go through their entire stash of stable coins, before they start selling their BTC. Now, if all these are true and they go through their entire stash of stablecoins and BNB is still going down and they're going to liquidate, then that becomes the death spiral that they can't actually get out of. And it would be a much bigger event than even FTX. But since Binance does have like a huge stove of stablecoins, I don't think that's viable to happen. And the thing is, like, there's like 2 liquidation points that people have mentioned, and we've actually fallen past both of them at 220 and 212. I think like BNB right now is at like 210 or something, at least at the making of this video. So I don't actually think Binance actually had a liquidation point, which means they didn't really collateralize all that much with BNB. And the thing is, like, BNB actually does have a use case because a lot of people actually use Binance. It's still the biggest exchange in the world. And a lot of those users do hold BNB just to reduce trading costs on Binance. So there are actually people holding BNB, staking BNB, and BNB does give you an advantage when you actually go for those like ICOs on BSC. You're not allowed to do that in the United States, but of course in other countries that really doesn't apply. So the whole thing with like BNB, it requires a lot of factors. And even though people have accused Binance of doing a lot of stuff, they've never really been able to give any kind of proof that Binance is actually doing this. Even when the SEC accused Binance of, I think, like helping Russia with money laundering or like something like that, and they wanted, I think, like the judge to freeze all of Binance's assets because of that. The judge was like, do you have any proof? And the SEC was like, we don't have any proof, but we think they're doing it. And because we think they're doing it, you should freeze all their assets. And the judge was like, nah, bro, you have to have proof. And they actually had to take an L on that one. And I think a lot of the accusations for Binance fall into that same category, whereas like, we think they're doing something bad and it looks kind of shady, but we don't have any actual proof. And when people actually go to redeem stuff, Binance is open for redemptions. Now, there is a bit of trouble right now. Some people will point to the fact that they actually have placed limits on withdrawals in euros. But that's actually been happening a lot with Binance lately because it is actually the banks giving Binance a lot of trouble. Binance actually isn't making that up. We know the government jurisdictions in America and a lot of European countries are trying to cut off the fiat ramps for Binance. So that trouble is actually not made up. It's actually real. And I don't think that's because Binance is in financial trouble. I just think like the regulators are really, really after Binance and trying to diminish the influence of Binance has in their country so they can actually like prop their own local exchanges up. So I actually wouldn't be too worried about that. That doesn't indicate that Binance is actually in trouble right now because Binance is incredibly profitable. So they probably have a pretty good treasury. In addition to the treasury, they have all the stable coins and they probably have a lot of Bitcoin and other coins as well. If they really start mass liquidating their stash of Bitcoin and other coins, I think that's when you really want to pull out and that's when you really want to worry. And you don't have to pull out in USD. You can obviously just transfer your Bitcoin elsewhere. Now, if you want to be safe, yes, you can transfer your stash to Coinbase, Kraken, or your own personal wallet just to be safe. But right now, I actually don't think there's that much to worry about for Binance. Keep an eye on it and see like where the price actually goes. You can try to check their records to see if they've actually collateralized BNB to take out huge loans. I don't really think you'll find a way to actually find that information, in my opinion. But if you do, that would be like a really, really good check to see like, you know, is Binance as healthy as they say it is. Remember, FTX actually went down because they commingled customer funds with their own funds and they lost it all in like some crazy leverage gambling thing. Binance, as far as I know, has not actually done that. And they have separate accounts for their accounts and customer funds. And customers have always been able to get their funds out of Binance. Yes, of course, there's been a couple of complaints here and there. And some people have had trouble, mostly with the KYC AML stuff. And a lot of people actually who had trouble were like US citizens that continue to use Binance.com after you weren't supposed to use Binance.com. I don't really blame Binance for that because you weren't supposed to be doing that in the first place. So the whole trouble with Binance, I think, right now, I think is all speculation at this point. But where there's some smoke, sometimes there's fire. So you do actually have to be careful. There, like I said, I just explained like the spiral liquidation event that could really take us down really far. But I think it has probably less than like a 15-10% chance of happening. But it's not a non-zero chance. And I think we have to respect the fact that it is a non-zero chance of happening. That is the main theory and the main news for today. The other news is that Coinbase is slowly taking over USDC. They bought a share in Circle, abolished like the controlling thing, the organization, controlling organization, and basically just had Circle issue everything. So Coinbase is making their tentacles known, and they're going to take over USDC. I mean, I think this was always a possibility because USDC was always more of like a government, sort of like a private, almost government involved type of coin. And Coinbase might be the exchange that the US government is trying to prop up, or because they don't want foreign exchanges to dominate the US market, they want Coinbase to dominate the US market instead, which is really bodes extremely well for Coinbase itself. So that's pretty awesome, especially if you're a Coinbase investor. And the other thing is, the metaverse in China might be seeing social credit come to it because the authorities not only want to keep peace in the real world in China, they also want to keep peace in the metaverse in China. I know that sounds really dumb because who cares if you have peace or violence in the metaverse? But the government cares. So you better not steal anyone's car, and you better not troll, and you better not beat people in the metaverse, because if you do, that'll be a strike on your social credit score, and they will arrest you and throw you in a Chinese prison if you act up in the metaverse. So you not only have no freedoms in the real world, you also have no freedoms in the metaverse. And also definitely don't say anything anti-government in the metaverse, because they will find out, and then the good party will come after you. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.